la questione e siamo onorati di avervi qui. Io chiederei al senatore Zedda se ci può, che ci ospita, quindi ringraziamola, se ci può offrire un suo saluto iniziale.
Sì. Io vi saluto, vi auguro buon pomeriggio, sono felice di fare la padrona di casa.
I microfoni? Funzionano? Aspetti un secondo. Qualcuno può aiutare il senatore col microfono, per cortesia? Magari i commessi.
In alternativa adesso funziona?
Ora sì,
okay.
ora sì.
Sono felice di fare da padrona di casa questo evento, sono estremamente lieta di essere qui per questo evento dal titolo Donne, libertà e diritti umani in Iran. Sono felice perché questa tematica è una tematica di tutti. È una tematica che non è di parte, che non deve essere di parte, è una tematica che non è di una religione, è un tema che non ha un ceto sociale, è un tema che non è solo delle donne. E sono più felice oggi di essere qua e di aver accettato di essere presente, perché in queste giornate passate, in questo fine settimana, ho ricevuto innumerevoli mail per chiedermi di disdire, di non essere presente. Invece ancora più fieramente sono presente e sono felice di essere il megafono per questa possibilità di parola, perché sull'Iran oggi tutti devono parlare. Porto i saluti del senatore Giulio Terzi di Sant'Agata, che assieme agli altri organizzatori ha voluto, scelto e ideato questo momento di confronto. Ringrazio i relatori, ringrazio il dottor Gaglietti, il dottor Dottori, il dottor Andrea Cangini, già senatore della Repubblica e segretario generale della Fondazione Luigi Einaudi, ringrazio l'ambasciatore Wallace e ringrazio la dottoressa Feiz, ma non ne abbiano a male se dedico un minuto in più, e poi non ruberò altro tempo perché non voglio essere il politico che viene a parlare di sé in un'occasione come questa, a due miei coetanei, e vi darò del tu. E non offendetevi se vi darò del tu, perché lo faccio per avvicinarmi il più possibile a voi, e sto parlando di Masi e di Ahmed. Appunto sono miei coetanei, se non sbaglio nata Masi nel 1976, Ahmed nel 1977, che con estremo coraggio raccontano quello che accade nella loro terra, lo raccontano a distanza e lo raccontano per due motivi differenti. Masi si avvicina alla sua ribellione stessa età, negli anni 90, in cui lei subisce un arresto, e io negli anni 90 già avevo scelto di fare politica. Ahmed perde moglie e figlia, ma saranno loro a raccontare la loro storia, ma entrambi, invece di tenere le proprie sofferenze per loro, decidono di girare il mondo per parlare di ciò che accade in Iran. E allora io a loro voglio fare lo stesso augurio che ho fatto a me stessa quando ero una giovane ragazza che si accingeva alla militanza politica, quella di arrivare un giorno negli scranni più alti delle istituzioni italiane, oggi ci sono, essendo un senatore, aver eletto e aver partecipato all'elezione della prima donna Presidente del governo qui in Italia, Giorgia Meloni, e dico a voi che il nostro governo è vicino a tutti quei territori in cui i diritti umani, le libertà vengono violate. Voglio fare una battuta a Masi, ti invidio i capelli ricci e ti li invidio ancora di più perché il capello nelle donne è l'elemento che ne denota il carattere e la voglia di fare. Il tuo capello è riccio come il mio e quindi immagino che la tua voglia di fare sia tanta. Vi faccio il mio in bocca al lupo più grande e mi metto a disposizione vostra. Grazie.
Grazie molto senatore e grazie ancora. Io darei la parola all'ambasciatore Mark Wallace, che per chi non sapesse è stato ambasciatore presso le Nazioni Unite, oggi è un filantropo, è un grande amante poi di questa questione in particolare, CEO della United Against Nuclear Iran. Prego, ambasciatore.
Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Senator Zeta, for welcoming us here today. I want to thank the Senate of Italy for hosting us, and I want the entire team that organized this. Hopefully you will see a world record for a former American ambassador. I'm going to try to keep it 1 minute or less. If you see this, let's tweet that out that somebody spoke for 1 minute or less with my diplomatic background. I want to thank everyone who's here. Being on this panel is an honor. These are the faces of the leaders of the diaspora who try to speak for the Iranian people as they fight tyranny. These are incredibly brave people worthy of your attention and respect, and it's my honor to be here. Why are we here? Why Italy? Why is a former American ambassador sitting in front of a bunch of Italians talking about Iran? For many years, Italy has been almost marginalized in the European Union as somehow not as important in the leadership of foreign policy. In fact, on this issue, Italy is the most important voice. Italy is always the first to embrace Iran culturally and from a business perspective, historically. With what's happening in Iran now, I respectfully implore you, Italians and the people of Italy, to condemn what's happening in Iran as loudly as you embrace Iran in better times. Your voice is so important. My only other message is there's various press in this room. You all enjoy freedom of the press. You get to speak about the issues that you care about. You have colleagues in this room from an entity called Iran International. They were based in London, England. 100 people. The United Kingdom asked them to pack up and leave because they could not control the threat of assassination against that news outlet. I ask you not to bias your coverage, but to speak and amplify their voice, because they will not be silenced, but they need the support of each and every journalist, whatever your political perspective is. Amplify their voice, please, because they are trying to be silenced by a regime that is against everything what Italian journalists stand for. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Pregherei la dottoressa Iva Fesi, a cui dobbiamo tutto questo, perché è lei che ci ha portato i graditi ospiti. Iva.
Thank you. I want to thank our host. I want to thank our host for having us here today. Since the death of Mahsa Amini in September 2022, Iranians have spoken loudly and clearly to the world. They want an end to the Islamic regime. And just a few days ago, the Iranians came out in large numbers in cities all around Iran to protest the very system that was marking its 44th anniversary. Their slogan, Women, Life, Freedom, Zan, Zendegi, Azadi, is profound. It hits at the core of the oppressive ideology of the Islamic regime. At the same time, to amplify this revolutionary moment, the Iranian diaspora has been protesting around the world. Rarely a week goes by without a Women, Life, Freedom event in major cities. For the first time in history, a diverse group of diaspora leaders have come together in unity to promote unity and represent the Iranian people on the world stage. Our two distinguished guests here today, Masih and Hamed, are leading lights in this effort amongst 6 others. Masih and Hamed have just come from Munich Security Conference, where for years, Iranian regime officials were invited to attend. But this year, they did not receive an invitation. The time has come for the international community and the world leaders to stop dealing with the Islamic regime, to not deal with the regime that kills its own people, to recognize IRGC for what it is, a terrorist organization, which is led by a terrorist leader, hiding behind a religious facade, and that is Ali Khamenei. He too should face designation as a terrorist. So now I'd like to turn the program to our two keynote speakers, Masih and Hamed. Although Masih needs no introduction, she's a women's rights campaigner. She gained worldwide attention for her My Stealthy Freedom campaign, which turned into a viral social media campaign against compulsory hijab that became the biggest civil disobedience movement in the history of Islamic regime. She's described by the New York Times as the woman whose hair frightens Iran. Hamed, while he's a successful dentist and author of multiple novels, unfortunately, the world got to know Hamed after the night of January 8, 2020, where for so many families that night never saw the light of day. When the IRGC's missiles struck the Ukrainian flight PS-752 over the skies of Tehran and killed 175 plus one passengers on board. Hamed's wife, Parisa, and his 8-year-old daughter, Riram, were on that flight. None of us can imagine his pain. He's now the president and the spokesperson of the Association of Victims, Families of Flight PS-752, seeking justice, not only for Parisa and Rira, but for all those passengers that were on board, and for all Iranians that have been killed at the hand of this regime. Now I turn it to you, Masih.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much, Iva. Ora, senza nulla togliere agli altri, il motivo per cui siamo tutti qui, quindi do la parola a Masih Alinejad.
I'm getting far. I mean, hi everyone. I'm just actually keeping the distance because in Iran, being close to men is forbidden. I'm very sorry that I lost my voice. My voice is my weapon, but I used it in massive rally in Brussels, where I think more than 3,000 people turned out to support Iranian people inside. So you have to, sorry? Yeah, 30,000. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you for correcting me. My name is Masih Alinejad. I'm an Iranian journalist, women's rights activist, a campaigner against compulsory hijab, and of course a troublemaker for the mullahs back there in my homeland. I mean, it is very ironic for me being in Italian parliament this morning, Italian Senate, to testimony about what's going on in Iran and what the regime is doing to Iranian people, because I myself was a parliamentary journalist. And when I exposed the corruption, I got kicked out by them. But they didn't know the power of Iranian women. They didn't know that I'm going to go to every single parliament around the world and tell you face to face that you have to isolate them because they don't tolerate none of you. How many women are here? Hands up. You're all going to be kicked out from Iran if you don't cover yourself. Can you believe that? You will receive lashes. You will go to jail just because of showing your beautiful hair. And that's not just about her. It's about your identity. It's about your dignity. And that's why I want to ask a simple question here. If you were from a country where your government were telling you what to wear, what kind of lifestyle to follow, cover your hair properly, and if you don't, then you will get lashed and kicked out from school from the age of 7, what would have been your reaction? You were launching a revolution. If you men here were being told that you own your women and you're the only one allowed to go to a stadium, not your wife, not your daughters, not your sisters, you would launch a revolution. So I'm here today to tell you that, yes, there is a revolution taking place in Iran, led by women and supported by men. And we are here to tell you that don't believe the media telling you that the revolution is over. There is no need for bloodshed to be in the street to understand that the revolution is alive and the flame of revolution is burning. There is a famous saying in journalism, when it bleeds, it leads. But believe me, this is just for media. But for people, you don't need to see that more teenagers, more children, more people get killed to legitimize this revolution. Yes, it has been 5 months. In my country, more than 500 people got killed. More than 20,000 innocent protesters got arrested. 50 of them are in the death row. 5 of them got hanged. Just imagine a day. They go to the prison and tell you, are you ready to be hanged for the crime of supporting your sisters? So those in the West telling us that the revolution is over because they are not in the streets, I'm asking a simple question. When people were in the streets, facing guns and bullets, getting arrested, facing raped, hanged, what have you done? People in the Middle East know the evil. There is the IRGC. They are behind all these crackdowns. They shut down the eyes of women and men in the streets. Many of them are blinded. And that is why people across the globe, Iranians, are united and asking a simple demand to the EU, put the Revolutionary Guards in the terrorist list. But now, for years and years, we, the people of the Middle East, we experienced the war. We carried the scars of war. 2 of my brothers were injured during the war. People in Syria, they know the war. People in Iraq, they know the war. In Lebanon, in Yemen. And in the West, people were telling us, so we are not from the Middle East. There is no need to take a strong action. So I'm here to take your attention to my friend Gary Kasparov and many other anti-Putin activists. They have been warning you about the war, about the danger of Putin. So what happened? Because the West ignored that, now not only the anti-Putin activists, because the West ignored us, people from the Middle East, now the war is in the heart of Europe. Khamenei is sending drones to Putin to kill innocent Ukrainians. For the past 6 months, a revolution has taken place in Iran, but we saw a lot of solidarity from people in the West, beautiful celebrities, actresses, athletes around the world showing beautiful solidarity, cutting their hair. And we were so happy and excited to see that. But when it comes to politicians, female politicians cutting their hair, it breaks my heart because it's important for you. You were the one from Italy, High Representative of the EU. You were the one bowing them to the Islamic Republic, covering your hair. Now this is time for action. You can take off a headscarf, waving that in Parliament, in Senate, everywhere, showing your solidarity with the women of Iran who are getting killed in Iran for simple act of civil disobedience. So for female politicians across the globe, for Western female politicians, to be honest, we don't need you to cut your hair. We want you to cut your ties with our murderers. 8 years ago when I launched my campaign against compulsory hijab, many Western female politicians were hesitated to touch the issue because they were worried that they might cause Islamophobia. Believe me, right now in the revolution in Zahedan, women with hijab, shoulder to shoulder with women not wearing hijab, saying that with or without hijab, we want to get rid of a gender apartheid regime. I know that maybe you hesitate to touch this issue for some reasons. First, you might say that we don't want to interfere because this is internal matter. We are here to tell you that when a war being imposed to innocent people, unarmed people getting killed, it means that if you don't take action, if you legitimize the Islamic Republic, those who have guns and bullets and missiles to kill innocent passengers of Ukrainian airplane, Hamid's daughter and wife, if you still legitimize the Islamic Republic, if you still not putting the Revolutionary Guards in the terrorist list, believe me, you are interfering in our internal matter. You are taking side. So that is why our call is clear. Designate the Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist organization the way that the US government did. And I don't get it. How come the rest, the EU, hesitate to do that? Another reason that the Europeans are hesitating to support us, they say that this should be solved by the people in the Middle East. You kidding me? Human rights is a global issue. And we are actually fixing this. I know that many people in the West are scared of using the word regime change. But we, the people of Iran, inside Iran, saying that we want a regime change. So that is why, at the same time, when you are trying to get a deal with them or having business with them, it means that when people have an agency to do a regime change, you are actually supporting them, not the people of Iran. So clearly, we, the Iranian people, do not want the Western government to save us. We want them to stop saving the Islamic Republic. We are not asking them to help us. We are here to help the Western politicians to understand about our culture. Yes, our culture, we are anti-war. We respect arts. But when you keep silent, then you're allowing them to spread their radical ideology everywhere. Because we believe the Islamic Republic is more deadlier than coronavirus. The Islamic ideology is dangerous, and they're going to infect the rest of the world. There is a famous saying in America that what happened in Vegas, it's going to stay in Vegas. Believe me, what happened in the Middle East is not going to stay there. It's going to infect the rest of the world. I want to finish my presentation by one example. A few years ago, when President Rouhani was here to visit Italy, he asked Italian government to cover arts, statues. It was an insult to Italian people, to nations in Italy. They bowed, the Italian government bowed to Rouhani to cover the arts because Rouhani's government could not watch nude statue. Another example that Islamic ideology can infect and spread around the world is Iran International, which Mark Wallace, Ambassador Wallace, mentioned that. My colleagues, Iran International TV, were forced. Yes, I'm using the word forced. The UK police used the word recommendation, to shut down their operation in UK. Why? Because they cannot protect journalists to do their job. No. The UK government should not step back, should not accept the Islamic Republic ideology on UK soil. They have to shut down the embassy. They have to recall their ambassadors and allow the journalists to do their job. I'm a journalist as well. I'm an activist as well. I survived assassination plot, kidnapping plot on US soil, and I never listen to the FBI when they tell me that it's dangerous for you to travel, because it's the responsibility of the EU, the US government, to protect democracy, not accept what the Islamic Republic dictate for them. So when we, the people of Iran, are not scared, I call on the EU, don't be scared, and help us to protect the rest of the world from one of the most dangerous regime, which is called Islamic Republic, and I call ISIS with oil. Thank you so much. Woman, life, freedom. This is the slogan, don't forget.
Grazie Masi. E l'altro motivo per cui siete tutti qui è il dottor Ahmed Esmailion, che è portavoce dell'Associazione delle Vittime dei Familiari del volo che ha ricordato anche Masi, il volo PS 752 che purtroppo è stato abbattuto dai Pasdaran l'8 gennaio del 2020. Prego.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will talk longer than your 1 minute ambassador was. Distinguished senators, allow me to commence by thanking you for inviting us to appear before you. My name is Ahmed Esmailion, and for the last 3 years, I have acted as a spokesperson for the Association of Families of Flight PS752 victims. As you are aware, on January 8, 2020, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of the Islamic Republic of Iran fired at least 2 missiles minutes after a passenger flight took off from Tehran's international airport. The heinous crime claimed the lives of all of the 176 innocent passengers and an unborn child and crew members aboard the flight, including my beloved wife, Parisa, and my beautiful 9-year-old daughter, Rira. 3 years later, the true circumstances surrounding this crime have remained shrouded in secrecy to relatives and loved ones of the innocent victims. The Islamic regime has refused to cooperate with international investigators, focusing instead on subterfuge to systematically conceal the truth and that lead to this heinous crime. Instead of providing transparency, the regime has sadistically harassed and intimidated the relatives of the victims who have demanded accountability or justice. But today I join you all to speak of revolution that has engulfed Iran since the murder of Mahsa Jina Amini at the hands of so-called morality police. However, prior to getting in the full thrust of my remarks on what is being referred to as the first counter-revolution sparked and led by women, allow me to thank your government and all of Italy's legislators for having stood firmly on the right side of history and alongside courageous Iranians in the last 5 months. Among others, several weeks ago, your Senate's respective Foreign Affairs and Defense Committees each unanimously approved a resolution urging the Islamic regime to respect women's rights and demanding that it immediately cease its unconscionable crackdown on peaceful protesters and its barbaric treatment of the many that have sought to exercise their right to peaceful assembly. As Senator Stefania Craxi rightly declared after adoption of the resolution before your 2 Senate committees, Italy will be on the front line against the barbarism. Your principled leadership in the Senate in turn paved the way for your Chamber of Deputies to also demonstrate its resolve. A week after passage of the Senate resolution, the Foreign Affairs and European Affairs Committees of your Chamber of Deputies called on the regime to withdraw all legal charges against protesters and to immediately free them all from detention. My faith and confidence that Italy will continue to champion the highest ideals and aspirations of all Iranians is born of the reality that your country itself has previously faced the ugly scourge and heavy burden of fascism. Those dark years of contending with fascism imposed from above has collectively instilled in all proud Italians a unique appreciation of the need to safeguard the individual dignity of every individual and has fortified you with the conviction that all humans must be endowed with the right to experience liberty and freedom. However, despite your decision to side with the yearnings of all courageous Iranians battling the regime, I regret to inform you that according to the most conservative estimates, the regime has brutally killed well over 500 protesters in the past 5 months and has arbitrarily arrested over 20,000 Iranians during the same period. All such individuals remain incarcerated in prisons throughout Iran. First, although the attention and coverage of the Western media has been erratic over the course of the past months, it is important that you recognize that Iranians remain as defiant as ever and are demanding nothing less than an end to the criminal regime. Second, the Iranian regime does not only represent a menace to its own people, but will continue to represent a pariah state that remains entirely committed not only to endangering the safety and security of the entire Middle East region, but also has no regard for any of our open societies. Consequently, the Islamic regime will continue to destabilize Europe and all of our democracies. And finally, my third point is that the Islamic regime is congenitally incapable of living up to any agreement with Western democracies that it may purport to commit itself to. Any attempt to appease the Islamic regime will prove a folly of historic proportions. In other words, North American or European capitals are bound to fail at any attempt and negotiate with Tehran. Instead, your governments should resist the futile urge to negotiate with the Islamic regime that wholly lacks popular legitimacy and remains on its deathbed. Allow me to expound on each of these 3 points I have raised. You ask, how can one assert that the Iranian Revolution remains alive and well? A recent poll has revealed that over 80% of Iranians would like to see an end to the Islamic regime. Little wonder that Iran has suffered the worst brain drain in the global south, with millions of Iranians having opted to vote with their feet by leaving their homeland in the last 4 decades. Apart from gender apartheid, the Islamic Republic has exacted a heavy price on ethnic minorities such as Kurds, Baluchis, and Arabs, and has ravaged the daily lives of religious minorities such as Baha'is and Sunnis living in Iran. A country endowed with inviolable oil and natural gas reserves is starved of energy supplies, of domestic consumption, and not even the modest of trickle-down economic principles have impacted the daily lives of its citizens. And while Iran sits atop some of the world's largest known reserves of natural gas deposits, over the past several months, the Iranian regime has had to shutter hundreds of schools throughout the country because of its inability to supply public schools with ample supplies of natural gas in the coldest months of the year. Allow me now to expand on my second point, which is that any regime that tramples the rights of its own citizens with the same reckless impunity and intensity as the Islamic Republic forfeits its rights to be deemed a good faith negotiator in the international arena. The Islamic Republic will never live up to obligations it assumes vis-à-vis other members of the international community. In other words, it would be morally repugnant, if not unconscionable, for members of the international community to negotiate with any regime at a time when it's callously killing its own people. Rather, the best means to eliminate the specter of the nuclear Iran would be to assist Iranians rid themselves, and by extension, the global community of the Iranian Islamic regime. After all, it would be sheer folly to expect a country such as the Islamic Republic of Iran, with a lengthy record of failing to adhere to any of the prevailing norms of international law or the most elemental principles of international relations, to ever consider itself beholden in good faith to any conceivable nuclear deal to agree to. Above and beyond being a constant threat to its own population, Islamic Republic will never cease to be a menace to international order and will always look for a pretext to act as the infant terrible of the international community. The Islamic regime will never resist the endless temptation to plunge the world into the reckless international misadventure after another by either upending peace or torpedoing global stability. It is well to recall that in recent years, the Islamic Republic of Iran saw fit to align itself with the murderous regimes of Bashar al-Assad and Russia to spill the blood of countless Syrians in the Middle East during the civil war. Similarly, more recently, the Islamic Republic has proven far too eager to supply Russia with untold numbers of kamikaze drones, with which Moscow has unleashed untold hardship on courageous Ukrainians. Other examples of recent brazen acts undertaken by the Islamic regime that demonstrate what a prill it is to represent to Western countries have been exposed by the media. Among others, the regime has attempted to orchestrate the murder on U.S. soil of my dear friend Masih Ali-Nejad, whom I am grateful is seated beside me today. Also, 15 plots were recently dismantled on a timely basis by the Metropolitan Police and MI5 in London, whereby the regime was attempting to eliminate its enemies in the United Kingdom. The Islamic regime has also recently wrongfully convicted and incarcerated within Iran 4 innocent Swedes, 2 French, 1 German, and 1 Australian national in shameless attempts to use each such individual as a bargaining chip. As such, it is time for Europe to awake to the fact that the Islamic Republic is not solely a menace to its own people, but that it is equally a menace to your interest and to the welfare of your citizens. As such, any further attempt by Western countries to undertake renewed negotiations with the Islamic Republic will simply be construed as a sign of weakness by Tehran and further embolden the regime to continue on the audacious path it has chosen to embark on. In conclusion, allow me to finally elaborate on the third and last assertion I made above, which was that the only means to effectively counter the Islamic Republic is for your country to proceed with moral clarity and to stand firmly against it. Rather than focus on discussions concerning nuclear enrichment, the West should maintain its gaze on ensuring that it suffocates all the means that financially enrich Tehran. To that end, you should direct yourselves towards dismantling the regime's operations abroad, and nothing would prove more impactful than dismissing Iranian diplomats from your country and listing the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and other principal figures on the criminal regime as persona non grata in your respective countries. I thank you for your time you have provided me for my opening remarks, and I look forward to answering any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. E inviterei il nostro segretario generale, il segretario generale della Fondazione Luigi Einaudi, a fare un saluto e soprattutto ad esporre quello che è il manifesto per un Iran libero, che la Fondazione Luigi Einaudi poi pubblicherà, anzi sarà pubblico già tra pochissimi minuti, e che potrà essere sottoscritto sul nostro sito.
Grazie Francesco, grazie ai tanti colleghi e amici giornalisti in sala, a Radio Radicale che sta trasmettendo questo nostro incontro. Perché siamo qui per rispondere alla domanda che ci faceva Masì poco fa. Siamo qui perché siamo orgogliosi della nostra cultura, non rinunciamo alla nostra cultura, perché siamo liberali e riteniamo che bisogna dimostrarlo anche concretamente. In un'ottica liberale i diritti non vengono attribuiti sulla base dei generi, così come non vengono attribuiti sulla base delle classi sociali, dei censi o delle caste. In un'ottica liberale esistono le persone hanno tutte lo stesso diritti e ciascuna ha diritto a realizzare se stesso come meglio crede nella massima libertà possibile. E così dalla metà dell'Ottocento John Stuart Mill, che è stato uno dei principali pensatori britannico liberali, nel 1869 scrisse un saggio contro la schiavitù delle donne. Da allora i diritti e la parità dei generi, i diritti delle donne sono a pieno titolo nel verbo e nel lessico liberale. Per questo che la Fondazione Luigi Einaudi è stato un grande Presidente della Repubblica, un grande governatore della Banca d'Italia, un grandissimo intellettuale e politico liberale, forse il più grande che l'Italia abbia avuto. È per questo che noi siamo qui in prima fila, al fianco delle donne iraniane, per difenderne i diritti e perché riteniamo inaccettabile che il regime dei mullah vieti con la forza, con la violenza, con l'incarcerazione, con gli stupri, sfregiando il volto già nascosto dal velo delle donne, alle donne di manifestare il proprio pensiero. Svelarsi vuol dire manifestarsi. Dopo essersi svelate si acquisisce un'identità, dopo aver acquisito un'identità si acquisiscono dei diritti. È per questo che è così importante per chiunque abbia un minimo di sensibilità liberale la battaglia delle donne iraniane. Ed è per questo che da sabato prossimo sul sito della Fondazione Luigi Einaudi pubblicheremo settimanalmente dei racconti di donne coraggiose, li abbiamo definiti così. La libertà svelata sarà il titolo, l'autore è Mariano Giustino. Racconteremo queste storie per tenere viva e alta l'attenzione, e per questa stessa ragione oggi presentiamo questo manifesto per un Iran libero, perché non possiamo continuare a far finta di nulla, perché riteniamo che chiunque Stato, nazione, organizzazione, autorità nazionale o internazionale dia un qualche valore alle parole democrazia e libertà, abbia il dovere di scegliere da che parte stare e di dire con la massima forza e con la massima efficacia di cui è capace che la violenza deve terminare. Naturalmente conosciamo la storia e conosciamo la natura umana, sappiamo che nel profondo delle viscere delle nazioni sono ancora depositati quei codici patriarcali che ne hanno rappresentato la regola anni fa e che per quanto la ragione si ribelli esistono ancora, esercitano ancora un'influenza, così come un'influenza esercitano le religioni. Noi teoricamente siamo uno Stato laico, la separazione, noi italiani dico, la separazione tra Stato e Chiesa è stata formalizzata con i patti lateranensi del 1929 eppure fino al 1968 esisteva ancora il reato di adulterio, eppure fino al 1981, 40 anni fa, esisteva ancora il delitto d'onore, il matrimonio riparatorio. Il matrimonio riparatorio è una cosa agghiacciante se ci pensiamo, no? Lo stupratore a cui viene tolta la colpa dello stupro se sposa la sua vittima, che così diventa vittima 2 volte. Ecco, questi eravamo noi, quindi capiamo che la strada del riconoscimento dei pari diritti per le donne iraniane sia lunga e tortuosa. È stata lunga e tortuosa la nostra, non può che essere lunga e tortuosa la vostra, forse la vostra sarà più lunga e più tortuosa perché la Sharia di per sé presuppone la sottomissione dello Stato alla Chiesa, della legge alla verità con la V maiuscola e dell'uomo alla donna. E l'interpretazione della Sharia che viene data dai mullah iraniani è un'interpretazione retriva, ulteriormente retriva. Ma questo non ci fa rinunciare alla nostra battaglia. Continuiamo a dire che il riconoscimento dei pieni diritti delle donne iraniane è un obbligo e che battersi per questo fine è un dovere, e soprattutto chiediamo con la massima forza possibile che cessi immediatamente la violenza, ed è questo a questo tende il manifesto che abbiamo scritto, perché non si può più assistere passivamente alla violenza esercitata su donne che hanno l'unica colpa, quella di voler manifestare liberamente il proprio pensiero. Io vi ringrazio.
Grazie mille. Una piccola mozione d'ordine, siccome sono già le 4:15 e a seguire c'è un'altra conferenza stampa, per dar modo poi anche ai giornalisti di poter porre le domande ai nostri ospiti. Gli ultimi interventi che siano sintetici. Mi chiedo scusa. Ci è venuta a trovare Melissa Mirsi, tesoriera dell'European Liberal Forum e una attivista per i diritti delle donne iraniani a Bruxelles, e mi fa piacere che sia qui.
Thank you very much, Fondazione Luigi, to give this opportunity, and I am very proud to see our opposition here, unity together, and I'm very proud of you and your solidarity together. We all know that Gina was 22 years old. She was killed by the moral police, and not because only not having her hijab properly. Mohsen, Mohammed, and many others also killed in the last 5 months of the revolution, only for yelling and fighting for their freedom and their rights. The women's rights have been severely constrained in the name of Islam, from Kurdistan to Baluchistan to Tehran, around the country. The brave Iranian women are the primary driving force behind this revolution. With removing their hijab, go to a strike, and demonstrating the desire for the liberty. Over the last 5-6 months, the dictatorship has used lethal force in response to the protest, arresting over 25,000 individuals and threatening protesters with these penalties. Why? Only because the courageous Iranian people demand a life of dignity and democracy. They are fighting for the fundamental freedom, rights. Let us face the fact in Iran today. We are dealing with the first progressive revolution in the history of the Middle East. The women, men have been through enough, and it's time to choose the right side of the history. We are demanding to designating IRGC as a terrorist organization. As a liberal woman, I am here to be their voice. I would like to say that the politician, journalists, everybody in the world need to accept and imagine a world without those murder Islamic regime. By accepting this is a revolution and support the movement Woman, Life, Freedom. برای زن زندگی آزادی. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. E il professor Dottori, che è un analista esperto di politica internazionale.
Buon pomeriggio e grazie innanzitutto di avermi coinvolto in questa iniziativa. Sono molto onorato di essere qui, anche un po' emozionato, perché consentitemi di dirlo in questa sede, la sofferenza di voi donne iraniane io l'ho letteralmente toccata con mano ed è ciò che mi ha spinto a sposare la vostra causa, malgrado io sia una persona nota, diciamo, per il realismo con il quale affronto i problemi della politica internazionale. Poche annotazioni. La prima, noi siamo di fronte a un fenomeno epocale e a una battaglia di grandissime dimensioni. Quella che si combatte in Iran è la prima lotta che ha per oggetto l'uscita dall'Islam politico e l'instaurazione di una democrazia laica nel Medio Oriente. Se la rivoluzione vince, se la rivoluzione riesce, cambia il mondo. E a mio avviso è l'evento internazionale più importante di questi tempi, molto più importante della guerra che in questo momento sta sconvolgendo l'Ucraina, che tutto sommato ha un impatto locale, che se ne dica. La rivoluzione in Iran, se riesce, capovolge quella del 79 e modifica i termini del rapporto tra diritti e autoritarismo in modo assolutamente decisivo. Vorrei anche dire una cosa, che il diritto fondamentale per il quale le donne iraniane e i loro uomini si stanno battendo è prima di tutto il diritto all'affettività, una cosa che neanche alcune autocrazie che critichiamo fortemente tutti i giorni si sono mai sognate di fare. È un diritto basilare dell'uomo e della donna, anzi della donna e dell'uomo, che ci deve vedere tutti uniti. Certo, in questo momento forse le proteste stanno diminuendo anche per una scelta tattica che viene fatta, quella di cercare di risparmiare le vite. Bene, non c'è dubbio comunque che la battaglia va avanti e in questa prospettiva, a mio avviso, sono importantissime due cose. Intanto prepararsi per la fase successiva e questo significa per esempio fornire al movimento che sta insorgendo una guida e un coordinamento forti, che sia in grado anche di interagire con l'esterno e canalizzare le risorse politiche che occorrono per rovesciare il regime. La lotta sarà lunga. Per quanto riguarda noi, dall'esterno è ovvio che la cosa che dobbiamo fare è progressivamente ma inesorabilmente sottrarre al regime islamico che governa a Teheran la sua legittimità. È quello che possiamo fare mentre continuiamo ad assicurare copertura e diffusione delle informazioni che riguardano le violazioni dei diritti e ciò che voi, donne e uomini dell'Iran che cercano la libertà, state assolutamente facendo. Siccome comunque rimango anche un realista, vorrei dire a tutti che tutto questo è anche nel nostro interesse nazionale, perché fintanto che esisterà uno Stato come la Repubblica Islamica d'Iran è assolutamente improbabile che l'apparato sanzionatorio che lo isola relativamente dal resto del mondo venga meno. Un Iran democratico è un Iran che può essere reintegrato pienamente nella comunità internazionale e quindi ci serve. Da ultimo, vogliamo trattare con il regime di Teheran anche la questione del nucleare? Sappiate che è accaduta una cosa. Noi immaginavamo di muoverci nel terreno della lotta alla proliferazione nucleare. Loro sono andati avanti e già pongono il problema nel contesto del controllo degli armamenti, perché ritengono di aver già fatto il passo in avanti. Quindi di tempo noi per posizionarci ne abbiamo poco, dobbiamo fare una scelta di campo molto chiara, e io sono d'accordo che persino la neutralità che abbiamo osservato finora è una scelta di campo, ma è la scelta di campo sbagliata, e quindi in qualche modo dobbiamo cominciare ad assumere dei comportamenti coerenti, sapendo che siamo sulla via giusta e che è anche nel nostro interesse di lungo termine muoverci in questa direzione. Quindi grazie per quello che fate, sono con voi con tutto il cuore.
Grazie professor Dottori. Il dottor Galietti, Francesco Galietti, anche lui analista esperto di politica internazionale.
Grazie, buongiorno. Ringrazio la senatrice Zedda per aver ospitato questo evento, ringrazio gli organizzatori, l'ambasciatore Wallace e Iva Feisi, ovviamente ringrazio Masi Alinejad e il dottor Esmailion per le loro testimonianze molto toccanti. Il mio intervento parte da una premessa, cioè che non sia possibile slegare quanto accade oggi in Iran dal contesto internazionale. È un contesto a blocchi contrapposti, e l'Iran è parte di un blocco autoritario che abbraccia Cina e Russia. Per cui è da Cina e Russia che bisogna partire quando si analizza il corso degli eventi odierni, ed è dalla Russia in particolare che possiamo partire quando guardiamo il dibattito sulla classificazione dei pasdaran e la loro fornitura di armamenti, di droni alla Russia, a aver indotto il Parlamento europeo a passi molto importanti. Ed è ovviamente c'è un nesso molto forte tra Mosca e Teheran, sono due regimi deboli che si sostengono a vicenda. È del tutto sbagliata l'idea che l'Iran sia isolato, è sostenuto vigorosamente dalla Russia, ci sono discussioni molto intense tra i due regimi sulla costruzione di droni iraniani su suolo russo. È un problema vissuto con grande intensità anche in Israele. Ovviamente gli israeliani, che hanno sempre avuto un rapporto molto forte con la Russia, non amano quello che sta accadendo. E ovviamente c'è una questione di fondo che riguarda l'orizzonte prossimo della Russia, il suo vicinato prossimo. La Russia, che vediamo, sta perdendo presa, è debole, e ovviamente c'è una enorme fascia caucasica di Asia centrale da tenere d'occhio. Stiamo assistendo a un principio di sgretolamento del mondo post-sovietico e ovviamente cristallizzare l'attuale ordine in Iran è un imperativo per Mosca oggi. Molto preoccupante, ma come dire, non si può far finta di non vederlo. Il secondo punto da tenere presente è la Cina. La Cina a sua volta ha un fortissimo interesse a cristallizzare, a congelare quanto accade in Iran, perché la Cina oggi è il capofila del blocco euroasiatico. Una volta era la Russia zarista, oggi è sicuramente la Cina. Non solo, non è solo una questione di massa, cioè se salta l'Iran il blocco è più piccolo, è un tema proprio di strategie. L'Iran è integrato nelle strategie cinesi, i cinesi hanno un disegno di connettività che attraversa l'Iran e le proxy iraniane, esiste un arco sciita che i cinesi hanno ben presente e vivono come un ponte per arrivare fino al Mediterraneo. Insomma, anche per la Cina l'Iran tirannico è imprescindibile. Quindi è molto difficile spacchettare, fare unbundling di queste parti. C'è un terzo punto che vorrei condividere con voi, cioè noi non possiamo oggi parlare di diritti degli individui, di diritti delle donne, ma dimenticare la questione del nucleare. Se l'Iran, come sta facendo, accelera nella sua corsa al nucleare, diventerà una Corea del Nord intoccabile. A quel punto hai voglia a parlare di diritti delle donne, diventerà del tutto impossibile. Quindi anche qui impossibile separare logicamente tutti i vari argomenti. Mi fermo qua, voglio lasciare spazio alla discussione. Grazie.
Grazie mille, dottor Galietti, e apprezziamo anche la sintesi. E a questo punto, siccome il Senato ci dà qualche minuto per sforare, ma pochi, un pochino di domande da parte dei giornalisti, brevi, e chiedo anche ai nostri interlocutori risposte rapide. Ok? Chi vuole iniziare? Vi chiedo di alzarvi, dire il nome della testata e la domanda a cui che volete rivolgere. Se abbiamo un microfono sarebbe anche cosa particolarmente... no, abbiamo un microfono al volo? No. Allora sì. I giornalisti che vogliono fare domande magari si preparino uno. Prego.
Buongiorno, sono Nazanin Igder di Radio Radicale. Io ho 2 domande da fare e lo faccio anche in persiano perché per me è un onore di poter chiedere le mie domande in persiano, anche in inglese per ascoltatori. آیا فکر نمی‌کنید که پس از سقوط رژیم یک دوره انتقالی تحت مدیریت سازمان ملل لازمه تا امکان تشکیل احزاب پس از انتخاب مجلس مؤسسان فراهم بشه؟ Don't you think that after the fall of the regime, a transition period governed by the UN is needed to allow the formation of the parties, then proceed with the election of constituent assembly?
La domanda è rivolta a chi dei nostri ospiti?
Dei nostri ospiti, tutte e due.
Masi, ok.
I mean, first of all, I have to say that this is the narrative of the Islamic Republic always trying to... Can you hear me? Oh, you cannot hear me? I have loud voice, still I lost it. God, my voice is scary, guys. So, this is the narrative of the dictators trying actually to sell it to the Western media, Western politicians, that we don't have any opposition, the oppositions are divided. I'm not saying that this is absolutely right, but when it comes to overthrow the regime, when we see that dictators are united, we get this, that this is the time that we must get united as well. So a group of political figures and political parties recently from Iran, we tried to be united. We unveiled a coalition, political coalition at Georgetown University. This is just the beginning. And I believe that this is our mission, that we're actually trying to write our charter based on human rights. But we have to actually force the leaders of democratic countries to be united as well. Of course, we need United Nations. But to be honest, just a few months ago, the Islamic Republic had the top seat at women's body to monitor at United Nations, to monitor women's rights globally. A country, a regime that does not allow women to ride a bicycle, a regime that kills women for showing their hair, a regime that actually lashes women for attending mixed party with men, a regime doesn't allow women to enter a stadium, had a seat at the United Nations to monitor women's rights globally, to make sure whether Italian women have a good right or not. So Russia the same. Recently, they just kicked out Russia from United Nations. So I want to express myself. The revolution happened inside Iran, but this is the time that we, the oppositions outside Iran, which have one goal, to have a secular democracy, want to actually force the leaders of democratic countries, the leaders of G7 to be united as well. As Hamid Ismail mentioned in his presentation, US citizen, UK citizen, German citizen, Italian citizen, Belgian citizens, Australian citizens, they are all on Iranian prison being used like bargaining chip to get a nuclear deal. This is the time for the democratic countries to be united, to downgrade their diplomatic relation with the Islamic Republic, and recognize the political figures and the United Coalition. Last point, Jamshid Sharmat, German citizen, today received death sentence. So he is going to be executed. He's a German citizen. The Islamic Republic kidnapped him from Oman. So you see, if I was kidnapped, that was my fate, to be executed. That's why I'm here, and I'm a little bit angry, because I believe that if Italian government get united with German government, with French government, you can do a lot. Then the next step is actually to show the Iranian regime that finally the leaders of G7 is going to draw a line between autocracy and democracy, between democratic countries and the warmongers like Khamenei and Putin and their gang of killers. Thank you.
Thank you, can't agree more. And another question for Mr.
Rapidi però, vi prego,
Do you
rapidità
agree
perché...
that one of the first acts of democratic Iran should be abolish the death penalty and that it shouldn't be inflicted on the members of current regime?
First, I briefly say about what you said about the political parties. You know that in the last 44 years, they have destroyed all the unions and all opposition parties. Those people that they call themselves reformists in Iran, most of them are part of the regime. There are some that are changing their minds and they want to be added to people that they want to overthrow the regime. But the real people of Iran have no political parties. We need to empower those parties, and people have to do that. What we can do, we can bring the ideas closer together to form a group of people that bring more people, to this coalition, or what we call it. So about death penalty, I think in future Iran should not be any death penalty for anyone. And if we have like the committees that for truth and reconciliation, I think we need to work on transitional justice, and which is very important, that there is no death penalty in future Iran after this Islamic Republic.
Thank you so much. That was, I'm honored to be a Persian. Thank you.
Grazie mille. Prossima domanda, sempre nome, cognome e giornale.
Sì, innanzitutto sono molto grata per l'organizzazione di questo evento, sono grata a Massi Alinejad e a Mehdi Esmaglione che ho intervistato per il mio giornale Il Manifesto, collaboro anche a Mondo Economico della Fondazione Einaudi, mi chiamo Farian Sebaie, sono iraniana e italiana. Io ho un dubbio che vorrei porre a Massi Alinejad e a Mehdi Esmaglione, la questione del ritiro degli ambasciatori e dell'imposizione di maggiori sanzioni. Sono due delle richieste che voi avanzate. Però in Iran gli iraniani lamentano l'isolamento internazionale, non chiedono la chiusura delle ambasciate e soprattutto le sanzioni internazionali in questi decenni hanno cancellato la classe media iraniana, hanno impoverito la popolazione iraniana e gli iraniani in Iran non chiedono maggiori sanzioni. Grazie.
Are actually asking for target sanction. They want actually the existing sanction to be enforced on the killers as well. And I want to say that during the time, let me be very clear with all of you. 2 decades, for 2 decades, all the resources of European countries have been spent to get a nuclear deal. You tell me, what was the result? They achieved nothing. Nothing. Islamic Republic cheat. Islamic Republic lies. They hide the enrichment. So you want to negotiate with those who lie to you? And the language of diplomacy didn't work. It's clear. Because they didn't stop killing their own people. Most important than this, this is the narrative of the Islamic Republic saying that sanction is actually hurting people. It's not just sanction hurting people, it's the corruption, it's the corrupted mullahs. That's why I want to give you an example, and I want to actually Ahmed to add his opinion as well, whether he agrees with me or not. When the Western media and some journalists outside were saying that sanction hurting people, suffering people of Iran, the Western countries make people of Iran suffer because of sanction, I'm here to tell you that when the nuclear deal happened, the money went to Syria. The money went to Hassan Nasrallah, to Hamas, to Hezbollah. The money went to region for war. And most important than this, there's 51 religious institutions in Iran. The money went to those religious institutions, which one of them is morality police, to kill Mahsa Amini, to beaten up women. So clearly, when you sponsor the Islamic Republic, You sponsor them to oppress more people in Iran and in the region. We are not supporting to sanction and make people of Iran suffer, but this is a killer, a murderous regime. When you give them money, you empower them to kill more innocent people. The money went to Revolutionary Guards, which shot down the Ukrainian airplane and killed 176 people. In 2019, only in 3 days, they shut down the internet and the Revolutionary Guards killed 1,500 people. Catherine Ashton, Federico Mogherini, they spent 2 decades to get a nuclear deal, and they buried human rights under nuclear deal. So that's why we are here. We don't want Iran to be isolated, but this is the Islamic Republic. I believe that the Western countries, instead of signing an agreement with these killers, they have to be ready for an Iran without Islamic Republic and sign an agreement with the people of Iran, with a secular democracy.
If I add something here, nobody had asked to put pressure on Iranian people. What we have said was targeted sanctions on the individuals that are involved in crimes against humanity. Why they should live lavish lives in Europe and Western countries, why their kids and their children, their family are here in Europe, in North America, when their parents are killing innocent people in the streets of Tehran or other cities in Iran. This is what we are saying, that these people should not be allowed to live in Western countries or democratic countries. The other thing is about embassies. There have been 2 times, I remember at least 2 times in the last 44 years that the democratic countries, they recalled their ambassadors back. One was after the fatwa against Salman Rushdie, and the other time was after Mykonos verdict in Germany. They killed Kurds activists. 2 times you did it, and we didn't witness a war. That was the only language they understand. The pressure from Western countries or democratic countries, that's the only language they understand. They don't care about Iranian people. And they say to our people that the sanctions are the results of this mismanagement of economy, but the real reason is mismanagement and corruption.
Thank you. Non funziona il microfono? Forse un po' più vicino, provi con l'altro. Allora alziamo la voce e facciamo prima.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rahul Shirazi from Dopionado Double Bind. My question was for Masih Alinejad. The spark that ignited this entire movement started with policing of women's bodies. So I wanted to know how important is it for you to keep that alive?
Yes. Oh my God, I wish I had my voice. Yes, she's right. The revolution started because a woman got killed just because a little bit of her hair was shown. And I feel emotional because it's personal for me. Because for years and years, I have been giving voice to Women of White Wednesdays campaign, Women of My Camera is My Weapon. These are the initiatives that I created 8 years ago. And I knew the anger of the women. For years and years, I have been warning the rest of the world about the danger of morality police. 4 years ago, I was at Stanford University. I remember that the title of my talk was, Next Revolution Will Be Led by Women. People were mocking me. Nobody took me serious. But I knew the anger of brave women of Iran. I knew that these women will take back to the streets with power. They learned from their pain to be powerful. Iranian women are now victims. They are warriors, you know. And for me and millions of Iranian women, compulsory hijab is like the Berlin Wall. If we tear this wall down, the Islamic Republic won't exist. What we need and what is missing is real action from global feminist movement, global sisterhood. I was part of Women's March in New York shouting, my body, my choice. I was the one condemned a burkini ban when it happened in France. I was the one condemned Muslim ban when it happened in America. I want to see those people doing the same, take to the streets. Because now we are facing women ban. All of you will be banned from entering Iran. I cannot talk about women of Iran, but forget about women of Afghanistan. 1 year, women are not allowed to go to school, to university, just because of being women. My heart is broken for my sisters in Afghanistan. They're being fed from media because of missing this global sisterhood. Believe me, if we, the women of Iran, we, the women of Afghanistan, are not free, none of you will be free. None of you. And that's why I am so proud of Iranian women, women of Afghanistan. My heart goes with them. But every single day when I walk in the streets in America, in Europe, I get disappointed because I know that if one day schoolgirls, teenagers like Nika, like Sarina, in the West, in Italy, stop going to school, only one day university students stop going to school, only one day the female politicians stop going to parliament, instead sit down in front of parliament, wave your headscarf and cover your eye in support of your sisters in Iran and Afghanistan, it can be an example for the leaders of democratic countries to take a strong action. I don't think that this is too much to ask. Thank you.
Salve a tutti, grazie, sono Kimia Gorbani, corrispondente di TV Iran International. Ho una domanda per senatore Cangini. Allora, abbiamo letto su questo manifesto che era sosteniamole con ogni mezzo necessario. Cosa vuol dire ogni mezzo necessario? E poi, prossima domanda, che cosa pensate delle sanzioni contro i Pastaran e a loro messo come organizzatori terroristici? Grazie.
Nella potenza della parola, e quindi quando diciamo con ogni mezzo intendiamo dire con ogni mezzo intellettuale, perché di questo ci possiamo servire soltanto del nostro intelletto, della nostra cultura, della nostra capacità di analisi e di relazione. Ho spiegato che le ragioni per cui per la Fondazione Luigi Einaudi promuovere questo evento è stata la cosa più naturale del mondo. Con altrettanta naturalezza resteremo al fianco delle donne iraniane, perché è evidente che quel grido donna, vita, libertà è il nostro grido, e in quel grido sono riassunti i valori in cui crediamo, che danno da cui dipende la nostra identità. Non possiamo rinunciarci, ci perderemmo.
Okay. Grazie.
Are you happy with the answer?
Per ora ancora non ci fanno cenno, quindi un'ultima domanda, proviamo, poi invito magari i colleghi giornalisti, successivamente ci spostiamo perché ecco, qui o fuori, insomma, perché c'è una conferenza stampa subito dopo, per cui dobbiamo lasciare la sala. Però un'ultima domanda, prego.
Allora, buonasera, grazie per essere qui. Allora, mi chiamo Luciana Borsatti, ho lavorato per 2 anni da corrispondente a Teheran. Ora lavoro come freelance, ho scritto un paio di libri sull'Iran e il motivo perché ho chiesto la parola è come dire, fare una precisazione, scusami Nassi, perché in realtà da quello che mi risulta la IEA ha certificato che fino al 2018 l'Iran rispettava l'accordo sul nucleare. Quindi è soltanto dopo il 2018, dopo il ritiro unilaterale degli Stati Uniti, che è cominciata quell'accelerazione tremenda verso l'arricchimento dell'uranio che ora ci porta alla soglia di un ordigno nucleare da parte di Teheran. Quindi io credo che questo breve lasso di tempo vada ricordato. La domanda che volevo porre è ad Ahmed Esmailion, a cui faccio naturalmente le mie condoglianze per la sua tragedia personale. Come d'altronde esprimo tutta la mia solidarietà al movimento Donna, Vita, Libertà a cui abbiamo assistito, testimoniato e che abbiamo raccontato in questi mesi. La domanda è, voi chiedete di mettere sulla lista nera delle organizzazioni terroristiche europee i Pasdaran, le ARGC. Questo l'ha già fatto nel 2019 gli Stati Uniti. Allora, avete misurato i tangibili risultati di questa messa in lista da parte degli Stati Uniti per essere certi che l'azione abbia un efficace e tangibile risultato? Perché, e riferisco qui il pensiero non mio ma di altri analisti, perché io non mi permetto, un'azione del genere da parte dell'Unione Europea forse avrebbe l'unico possibile esito di chiudere qualunque canale di dialogo con l'Iran, non sulla violazione dei diritti umani, che è un altro tema, ma sulla sua collaborazione militare con la Russia, e spingerebbe l'Iran e la Repubblica Islamica ancora di più verso la Russia, ancora di più verso la Cina. Allora, l'alternativa alla diplomazia è la guerra. Chiudere qualunque canale diplomatico, anche per un'azione solo simbolica, come quella che voi chiedete all'Unione Europea, potrebbe essere la chiusura di ogni definitivo canale diplomatico e dunque una possibile guerra o un'espansione di quella già in atto, che mi sembra più che sufficiente. Ripeto, riferisco idee altrui.
Più che una domanda sembrava una lezione di geopolitica, però no. Prego.
Thank you very much. First about IRGC, you ask if, yes, United States has put IRGC in the list of terrorist organizations. We are working with Canadian government to do that, but they have been hesitant in the last 3 years, or many years. There have been other activists asking for that. Yesterday, there were thousands of people asking for that. You know, IRGC is the tool for oppression in Iran. IRGC kills people. IRGC tortures people, imprisons people. They're very powerful. The economy is in the hand of IRGC, and people have no rights to speak, have no right to work in economy. Everything is controlled by them. So if they put IRGC in the list of terrorist organizations, they weaken this organization, and that would be very helpful for Iranian people to succeed in their revolution. So this is one thing that they can do. But, I mean, you said that alternative to diplomacy is war. I don't believe so. We haven't seen any strong political message to Islamic regime. We said, okay, expel their ambassadors. In my opinion, this is different from closing the embassies. Expel their ambassadors. This is a strong political message to them. We never saw that. The political channels were open. I brought this example in another Congress a few months ago. November 2019, they killed dozens of children. The channels for dialogue was open. 50 days later, they killed 29 children on flight PS752. The channels of diplomacy was open. In the last 5 months, they have killed more than 70 children. The channels of diplomacy are open. Do you see any change of their behavior? What was the outcome of this channel of this diplomacy? We have detainees in Iran. They are in prison. Famous actors, singers like Tumaj Salehi is in prison under torture. But what was the outcome of these channels of diplomacy? I don't see any result of that. Like diplomatic, as I said, the strong political message hasn't been seen yet. Mr. Joseph Borrell said yesterday that he doesn't care about those voices that were in the streets of Brussels yesterday. But we keep continuing, to ask for IRGC being listed as a terrorist organization. And there are other activities that the governments of the free countries can do. Expel the ambassadors, expel the oligarchs related to Islamic Republic of Iran, help Iranian people to have free access to internet. These are the things they can do. And this is not war. I don't assume that this is war. Thank you.
Can I add something? I just want to add something. The war is being imposed on us by those actually you go in Iran and meet with them, by Javad Zarif, by Rouhani, by all the reformists and conservatives. So I think that how come the West is trying to negotiate with warmongers and saying that the diplomacy is open? This is not diplomacy. You're legitimizing the warmongers to kill more innocent people inside Iran.
Io vedo ci fanno gestacci, quindi dobbiamo lasciare la sala, rimarremo qua fino a domani. E vorrei ricordarvi che sul sito ci sarà appunto il manifesto della Fondazione Luigi Einaudi e